Hello, my name is Simon Feister. I'm senior lecturer at the University of St. Gallen. Over the last year, I've been involved in different case study classes, as well as international case competitions and international case studies. And what I'm going to present here is a certain approach to address marketing questions in case studies. And for marketing, I think it's important that you guys have a certain structure, how to think through the case, through the company, through the industry, so that you try to capture all the relevant aspects. But at the end of the day, it's important that you come up with some creative idea. However, these ideas should relate to something that the people, the jury knows from their everyday life. So they can actually relate to it and they can really understand what you're trying to say. That's why I'm using a simple concept, a simple theoretical background, and many suggestions, many examples to go through this presentation. So this would be this basic model that I'm using. It's, I think, a very widely known marketing model. It's a product, price, place, and promotion. So these are the four aspects that you have to bring together, and from a marketing perspective, to make sure that most people, most customers do actually hear about you, like your product, sell, buy, and repeat, come back as repeat customers again. For each of those four bigger topics, there are different, smaller topics that we are actually going to look at. So the first one on the upper left would be thinking about additional products. And then we go through all these things and ending up at the payment options at the lower left part. So let's jump into those examples and details. So product on the upper right, you can see that we're in the product section. And the first thing we are going to talk about would be additional products. So this is the example of Apple. And as you may know, Apple used to be a producer of computers for a very, very long time. They had really nice computers for the music industry, for the film industry. They were a little bit expensive. It was not a home product. It was not an everyday product. And somehow they got this idea that they take all the knowledge that they have from computers, from user interfaces, from operating systems into the smartphone market. Smartphones did exist before, but they were very awkward. You needed a pen, you constantly lost the pen. The operating system that they had was an operating system from a cell phone, so installing new apps was very, very difficult. There were hardly any apps available. The name app did actually not exist before Apple invented the iPhone and the iOS and all these concepts that we like so much today. So the iPhone itself was basically taking the idea of a computer, of a laptop, and understanding that those devices would get more and more powerful, so they can really turn into a small computer, and that's what it is. Our smartphones today, they have way more computing power and capabilities than computers had some 20 or 25 years ago. But Apple didn't stop. They continuously thought about how this concept of mobile computing would be used over and over again or extended in time. So they came up with the watch that brought computing power to our wrist, as well as the iPods on the right hand side. A pretty cool device, I think, how we listen music. Of course, there are other devices, potentially better devices, especially to listen to music. They might be better devices. Nevertheless, I believe for a busy traveler, the iPods, they really offer many things. So if you take them out, your phone call would stop, and so on, all these details. So Apple is, in my understanding, a very nice example how a certain idea of a certain product range, the computer becoming more and more mobile, was followed up very, very nicely over multiple years. And of course, it's not only the hardware, it's also the software that allows us to become really mobile customers. So Apple as a positive example, how broad you can think if you think about additional product. If you put the main need of the customer at the center, and the main need of the customer would be computing power on the go, then you might come up with ideas like Apple did, how to extend their product range. In addition to products, you could also think about additional services. And again, on the upper left or on the left side, we have Apple again with the iCloud, iTunes, and the Health app. So iCloud, I think that's for you guys, it's a no-brainer. But again, when they introduced iCloud, it was radical a radical innovation that you can have all data on all your devices. So there was a saying some years back which went, your data is home and backed up on your computer before you are. So whenever you type something in your iPhone, let's say a note or something, it's automatically updated into the cloud and into your computer at home. So at the time, this was radical new, that you had like the same data on all your devices at all times. The same goes with iTunes. When iTunes came out, many people didn't really understand what it's good for, why it's needed. Yeah. But as Apple was adding more and more products and more services, iTunes really became the center of the customer interaction over all those different devices that they have. And we can also look at certain apps. I think Health app is one of them. So Apple is offering this app, and the app uses different features of the iPhone, like tracking your steps or the microphone to hear your breathing at night, things like that. And then it becomes an integrated source of information. So this is the example of the health data app, yes, where you can see your activity, your mindfulness, your nutrition, your sleep. And of course, again, Apple allows different other companies to integrate with this app or with their data and offer additional services to the customer, how to improve activities, how to improve nutrition, and so on. So, Health app, in my understanding, that's an additional service that Apple offers, and the service itself is already great for some customers at least, but it also allows a clear integration of even broader services that partner companies would offer through their own apps. So services is not only what you offer, it's also what all your partners are potentially offering. Now on the right side, the upper side, that's a house. Now I think a private house, or also a commercial building, but mainly a private house, that's a great example of a somewhat complex system, yes, with heating, with electricity and everything. And you work with different companies, especially if something breaks or there is a repair needed. You work with different companies, and all of them discuss from a very single perspective. But you, as the owner of the house or the user of the house, you get an integrated service. You get all these components together, you get the heating, the water supply, the electricity, the wall, the paint, everything. You consume the combination of these different topics, but you have to talk to each of those experts separately. And at the end of the day, you are left with some things that might not really integrate. Yes? So I believe there is a huge opportunity to instruct users, house owners, how to really improve things and make sure that the other aspects that are relevant are combined. An example that I could give you, I'm currently involved in replacing an old oil heating system with a renewable heating system. So we were talking to different companies, and like all the companies, they mentioned their work, and at the end of their offering, there was a huge list of things that must also be done, like carpentry, like construction, and so on. And I'm always frustrated because for me it's the first time, for them it's not the first time, and it's nice that they list out what other activities are necessary, but they wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't tell me what I actually have to do. And as we will see later, Amazon, I think, has made tremendous steps forward to give additional instructions, very simple instructions. If I buy a certain, whatever it is, toilet flushing device, Amazon is offering instructions how I can install it and how I can use it, or with which products I can use it. But as you will see later, they also offer actually experts in my area, at least in the US, that would help me to overcome any difficulties that I'm having. Another example for such instruction how to use would be the HoloLenses from Microsoft. And what they do, or first applications that we see, is the picture below. So if you look at like a complex device, that's a pump that we can see there, or that this maintenance person is looking at. In the HoloLens, you will see all necessary data that you need for this pump. It might include usage data, but it might also include um, manufacturer data. If you can, for instance, optimize rotation or something like this, you could immediately see what the producer, what the manufacturer of the pump is suggesting, or you could see the water condition, maybe the rotation depends on the water condition, and so on. So the HoloLens is basically an example where you can include information that makes the maintenance or the installation of the pump easier. And that's an additional service, yes. So the manufacturer of the pump does not only produce the pump, it also offers those HoloLenses, including this application, this software that allows you to see all relevant information at all times during the installation or the maintenance of the pump. So these would be some examples of additional services. And what I think is important, you can think broad. Think from a customer perspective. Yes, if you are a customer, if you are in need of redoing this house or replacing the heating of the house, what is it that you are confronted with? And as a service provider for heating system, you may have a tremendous uh, amount of ideas what the customer might be confronted with, what additional questions the customer might have. And each of those questions is potentially an opportunity for you to offer a service and at the end of the day make money out of it. Predictive maintenance. Like most products, they need some kind of maintenance improvement, changing after some years, different phrases for the same basic problem. And today, it's also related to technology, to data that we have. we can actually predict maintenance. Yes. So we can know, or manufacturers of pump, that's again some kind of that's a generator from a wind turbine, they can know that with a high probability of like 90%, the generator is going to fail within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then you can wait until it fails, or you can replace or maintain it proactively. Yes, Google is taking that idea even further. Maybe you have noticed if you use Google Maps for driving directions, it will tell you the traffic, and it will not only tell you the traffic like now, but it will also tell you the traffic at the time when you're actually going to be there. So if you drive a long distance, for instance from St. Gallen to Hamburg, that's like 8 hours or something driving, um, it will tell you what the traffic situation might be, or what is the time needed by the time, so after 8 hours, when you run into Hamburg and potentially run into the evening traffic jam around Hamburg, and therefore you have a delay. And Google is taking this idea even further. It's Google Flight. They announced a system where they actually use historic data to predict if a flight is going to be on time or not. And that's not predictive maintenance, that's like predictive flight information, predictive consumption information. But based on historic data, you can actually project the future pretty accurately, especially in those cases where we have many consumers, like traffic jams, flights, and so on. Again, you have to take into consideration things like holidays, for instance, or special days, or things like that. It's not 100% accurate, but it's better than just waiting for things to break. In the example of predictive maintenance, it's better to wait until things break, or at least I can already order the new generator, that by the time it does break, it's already on site and it can be replaced within a very, very short period of time. Over-the-air updates. Over-the-air updates is a relatively new thing. It's also been introduced by the iPhone. Updates existed since a very long time. Also, Wi-Fi updates, so wireless LAN updates, existed since a very long time, but over-the-air updates only existed since we can have mobile data, not only mobile phone calls, but actually mobile data. And the iPhone introduced a system that is really, really easy to make updates. In other worlds, like the Microsoft world before the iPhone, installing any update was always troublesome. And Apple came up with a system with the apps that are really, really easy, and of course Microsoft followed that path. Today, we can have over-the-air updates in many other devices, so for instance cars. And again, we could use it for different options. So connectivity, that's a big topic, or security, cybersecurity. Um, each car has many computer chips for different things. Even relatively older cars, they already have many chips for like the lambda sensor to check the pollution of the engine, for instance. So cybersecurity, that's definitely something, or also software, like navigation systems, for instance, could use over-the-air updates to stay up to date. And of course, we also have the more advanced examples like Tesla, that is actually changing driving features or adding driving features through over-the-air updates. They use a lot of cameras in their cars, and other cars also use cameras. And they're adding more and more picture processing capabilities, so they can use the pictures to detect, for instance, if there is rainfall, things like that. So over-the-air updates are um, are useful for many more things than just software updates. We also have Wi-Fi or and over-the-air updates in devices that you might not really realize. For instance, locks. Today, locks they still have a mechanical part, but a huge part of the lock is actually digital. So again, this is the example of a lock, a door lock with a code. It still has a key, yes, but there is also this code. So there is already a lot of digital aspects, and we can use over-the-air updates, for instance, to restrict users or to change passwords or to allow new passwords, things like that. Or maybe in case of emergency to open all the doors at once. Yes, so different options here, in even in devices that we might not think of as um, a really digital devices. On the lower part, if we look at the homes, smart home, that's a certain topic. Um, so we can have the light bulbs, and there is one system from Philips, for instance, that is pretty intelligent. So in this example, we can change the color of the bulb using our smartphones. That's also over the air. Could be mobile data, could be wireless LAN data. Then washing machines. Again, the question is, how important is it that I can give instructions to my washing machine from my smartphone, especially because the washing machine, I still have to load and unload it and potentially add some powder, soap, things like that. But again, maybe the manufacturer of the washing machine could come up with an option that the powder would be in a in a container, and the machine would actually use powder by itself. So basically, like a car. A car also have fuel in the tank, and it consumes the fuel as it needs it. So maybe this could be an option for a company like Samsung or Whirlpool, which produces washing machines. So here the effective use or the effective benefit is maybe not as obvious, but again, um, maybe we have some great ideas how we can use over-the-air updates or over-the-air communication in this example to really change the way that we see washing machines. Last but not least, that's a little bit bigger vision. So this would be the vision where independent households are producing electricity themselves. On the lower house, the yellow house, there is also an electric car which consumes significant electricity when it's plugged in. So maybe there is a need to get additional electricity. At certain time there is a need to get additional electricity from other houses, or on the upper left from the grid even. So each house has basically this consumption curve. That's this blue this blue uh, square small graph. And here again, through information, through exchange of information of current electricity needs and potentially electricity needs in half an hour, we can optimize the grid. We can optimize the flow of electricity based on available information for how electricity is needed now or in the near future. Over-the-air update would be this communication between the houses, and based on that information we can start to use optimization things. And optimization approaches might be, for instance, that my washing machine starts half an hour earlier, or my car stops charging for half an hour, or we could also include the weather data, and then we would know, oh, okay, after like 2 hours there is a huge sunshine, protected, and then we would not start charging the car. Of course, we would have some kind of need to also know the schedule of the car, so we would need to access the calendar of the owner or maybe multiple owners. And then based on the calendar entries, we could decide, or some kind of computer logic could decide, I have to charge now, so the owner can actually start driving in half an hour, or I can wait for 2 hours for the sun, and then I could use the extra solar power electricity to charge the car. So this is over-the-air updates, the exchange of information, and what we can do with the idea of connecting devices over the air. Now, next topic are the group learning, group improvements, or community learning, community improvements. And there are two examples that I'm bringing to your attention. So on the left-hand side, we have a company that's called Shapeways. Shapeways is a relatively new company, and it's basically around 3D printing. And what it does, it allows you as a normal customer to actually buy different 3D printed shapes. I brought the example of jewelry. So these are different jewelry options. All of them are 3D printed. And behind the scenes, there are actually two things. First of all, if you are, knowledgeable in drawing 3D objects on a computer, then you can actually upload your own design, your own sketch, and Shapeway will print that sketch for you. And it will bring your design into this gallery that we're looking at right now, and other people can buy your product. And whenever somebody is buying your product, you get a small fee because you have created that design. So Shapeway is actually not like a company that is selling jewelry. It's very much a community where people can upload their own designs and have them printed. I'll come back to that in a second. Have them printed, and other people that also like this design can reuse this design that you have uploaded. Yes, so it's really a community idea. Of course, Shapeway has provided a lot of designs, a lot of jewelries up front to make sure that there is enough jewelry, or there is a certain variety of jewelry to choose from. Now, the real expertise of Shapeways behind the scenes is the printing. I don't know how much you know about 3D printing, but there are different options how we print in a 3D way. So the one option is, for instance, that we have like something like a paste, like a toothpaste kind of, and then we're building up. We're basically cycling around, and we build up layer by layer with this paste. And if you are interested in technology, then of course you have a problem, because these tubes, they must be on top of one another. You cannot put them sideways, because otherwise they fall down. Yes. There are other techniques. One technique is that you actually have like a basket full of powder. That's not entirely true. It's like a layer of powder, and then you're using some kind of heat or laser to melt the powder at the right places. So the powder becomes plastic, if you wish. And then you add a new layer of powder, and again it gets hardened with heat or laser. And so this is how you build up your object, layer by layer of powder that is melted and hardened into plastic, so to say. The big advantage here is that you have powder underneath, so you can support like hanging structures because the powder underneath is supporting that hanging structure. And after it's dried, after it's hardened, of course, you can remove the powder and you have a perfect structure. Of course, it also has disadvantages. So what I'm trying to say is Shapeway is taking these designs, and they have tremendous knowledge, which is the right technique or technology to print, and how can we combine different objects to have a very, very efficient, fast, efficient, and material efficient production process, 3D printing production process. Now, last comment on 3D printing. We will come back to 3D printing several times. You can print a lot of materials. You can print metal, you can print gold, of course plastic, that's the most widely used as of today. But not each technology or not each technique can be used for all materials. And again, that's a certain expertise that Shapeway has. Shapeway can tell you, if you want to do this and this design, you can only do it with this and this material. Another example of this group learning or group improvements would be Hallmark. That's the right side, the lower right side. Hallmark is known for cards, for cards, yes, for holiday cards, for Christmas cards, and so on. And they have expanded their services, and one would be the Thanksgiving ideas. So for Thanksgiving, many people have the problem: what do I do? Or what do I what gifts do I have for Thanksgiving? And as you can see below, these are meal ideas, and people can actually upload what they have done. So within the community, there are more and more ideas, more and more options where I can basically enter, okay, I have this and this situation or this and this problem. What have other people done in such a situation? And of course, Hallmark is hoping that then, based on these ideas, the customers would buy more things with Hallmark. Of course, these suggestions also lead to, let's say, grocery shopping. Yes, and Hallmark today cannot capture that revenue. So Hallmark is giving up some part of the revenue, if you wish, but obviously it's okay. As of today, it's okay because it leads to enough additional cards being sold. Yes. But again, I mean, if you have that platform already, you could also think about partnering with, let's say, grocery companies and say there is like a one-click shopping for these items at Walmart. So Hallmark and Walmart, well, maybe Hallmark has a little bit a more upscaled customer segment than Walmart, so that's maybe not the perfect fit. But nevertheless, you can partner with other organizations and bring the knowledge that you have from your community into this additional service domain like grocery shopping. And of course, Hallmark could add a service charge to the grocery shopping company. Partner offerings. I already started that discussion with the Hallmark. So the biggest, I think the biggest examples are traveling sites. So Expedia, for instance, if you start at Expedia, you can actually save money, or they suggest that you book the flight and the hotel together. So it's a package that they offer together with the hotel partners. And if you continue your booking on Expedia, that's the lower part. After they know your dates, they actually know, you're going to be here in Tel Aviv for some time. So like 10 days it is in this example. So maybe you need to travel a little bit, and they offer you some kind of additional packages. In this case, it's rental cars. So based on the customer behavior on your website, in this example, you can sense that the the customer has additional needs, and you can use partners that you have established collaboration beforehand to actually offer such additional services. And of course, Expedia gets some kind of commission, some kind of fee from the hotel as well as from the car rental company. The, the example on the right hand side, that's a hotel. The hotel is called Vorab. That's in a resort called Vlimslaks, but that's not so interesting. What we have, we will come back to this hotel example later. So what we actually have is they have packages, the Glacier package, the Winter Classic, and the Winter Magic packages. And if you read below, yes, they are saying that this rate includes, and then there is listed what it does include, and the second line is a 6-day ski pass for Weisse Arena AG facilities. So that's Weisse Arena AG is the name of the company that operates all the lift on the mountain. So what it is, the hotel has basically bought like a seasonal pass or multiple seasonal passes, and they are allowed to give these seasonal passes to their customers. So that's typical synergy. So the hotel can basically give out the ski passes for a lower price than the customer would have to pay if they bought it themselves. And the Weisse Arena AG has the advantage of selling upfront many seasonal passes. So this is a perfect partner arrangement between the two, the hotel and the Weisse Arena AG, where both partners benefit tremendously. They have better options, better service options for the customers. The Weisse Arena AG has better planning capabilities. They have secured income, especially the weekend passes. That's a little bit a gamble, because if the weather is good, a lot of people are coming. If the weather is not so good, people are not coming. So through this selling of seasonal passes to the hotel, they can streamline their revenues, and they have guaranteed revenue upfront. Now, let's move on to the next topic, that's price. And the first thing that I would like to discuss is like the initial price that a customer pays versus that's and or later payments that might apply. And we know this concept since many years. For instance, if you look at cars, we can buy extension, we can or we have to buy winter tires, and then we need to buy additional things together with the winter tires. Yes, spare parts. There is a rumor, and I believe it's true, that many car companies, they do not make that much money on the car, but they actually make quite some money on the spare parts. Again, if we stay with the car industry, fuel is needed. That's not so big in the car industry. In other industries, it's bigger, but I mean, the car companies could also own fuel stations, because for each car that they sell, they kind of know that a lot of fuel is being needed over the coming years, and so on. So the examples that I brought is first of all Amazon on the upper left, and Amazon, they have many great things, and they also have these subscription boxes. There are three examples that I added here, and you have to pay some kind of monthly fee, and you get a certain service. And typically, the service that you get, the suggestions or the products that you get, are not 100% perfect for you. Yes, so you get too many products, too many offerings, or too many suggestions. But on average, you like the idea that you get a little something. Maybe you get inspired by those things that you believe that you don't need, at least not in the first moment. But overall, you get a lot of service for a monthly packaged price and you believe that it's of great value, it's of better value than looking for all these things yourselves, for the individual offerings yourselves and buying them. So that's one idea, that you can have combinations, packages, boxes of different services or items that you provide monthly, and overall the value for the customer is greater than the price, and it's more convenient than buying all the separate items every month itself. If you go right, uh, that's the example of mobile phones, and I think you're very aware of that. This is the example of different sizes or package sizes that you can buy. So that's the iPhone SE, could be any iPhone or any other phone, of course. And then it's the combination of local data, of local calls, of potential international calls, international data roaming, whatever you want to come up to. So on the left side, the combo one, the combo two is rather uh, inexpensive, that the plan is inexpensive, but the services that you get is limited, or the price that you have to pay for the iPhone is high. And the more you go to the right hand side, the higher is your monthly subscription. So that's the third line. In the combo 12, that's actually 239.90 US dollars that you pay every month, but you get your iPhone for free, and you basically get a lot of unlimited services. And then every customer can choose, where do I see my priorities, which type of customer am I, and then he can choose those packages. And of course, the combo 12, that's secured monthly revenue for the company. The combo 1 is a little risky. Well, yeah, let's say it's risky for the consumer, because they have basically nothing unlimited. So there is a huge option for the company to get additional revenue if the customer actually uses more data or goes abroad more frequently and uses international phone calls and so on. On the lower part, we have the example of the gas station. And what I believe what is interesting in the gas station is that many gas stations, they actually make more money with their restaurant, shop, and so on, what that they have, than with the gas itself. So the reason for the customer to come to the site is really because he needs gas. But the company is actually making money with other services. And therefore, so that's the example, yes, that's a OMV, that's an Austrian company. They have, or in this example at least, they have a very, very nice interior, small coffee kiosk area. And they actually offer quite a lot of discounts for the fuel. And that's another indication that the fuel is the reason why the people come. So it must be attractive. They should pay a reduced amount for the gas, because the real money is being made with the shop and not with the gas. And last but not least, packages for Xbox, or for those consoles, playing consoles. We buy one. In this case, we pay later, but that's not so interesting. And for every console that is being sold, we just know that we need games, or the consumers, they need games. And I don't know the ratio, but I would say that at least it's a ratio of 1 to 20, 1 to 30, something like that. So, like in this case, Xbox, Microsoft knows that they can just bring out new games and make them somehow attractive for the existing Xbox users. So there is a clear uh, revenue stream from the later uh, games that are being brought out. So that's another option, how we could maybe use this idea of games in our products. And of course, that applies to all these four examples. Amazon structures those boxes in a certain way, and we could try to bring this idea into our case. And of course, it cannot be 100% Amazon, but we could think, why is Amazon successful? The same goes for these mobile phone subscriptions for the iPhone example on the upper right side. Why do customers wish to choose from so many options? Why is there a need for 12 combos? What is the risk and opportunity for each combo for the customer as well as for the company? Next one would be upgrading your customers. One example would be Dropbox. Dropbox is free, but the free version is pretty limited. So you can basically upgrade to a premium member. In this case, it's for individuals and then for teams up to enterprise level accounts. And of course, the price is significantly higher if you move to the right, to the premium member. And again, this is an idea that could apply to many situations, many companies, many services. I think the real question is, how must these services be structured to be interesting for the users, or to be accepted for the users to actually pay a higher price? On the right hand side, that's LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is going down a little bit a different route. So Dropbox on the left side, they add more features. So the ticks are the columns with the ticks are getting longer. Yes. And LinkedIn is basically saying that you might have different needs. You are using the LinkedIn network for, on the left hand side, career options, for business options, for sales options, or for hiring options. So this is not like a growing model. This is more a model of packages that you are basically saying, well, I want to use it more extensively, but I only need certain services. And it's not like growing, as we can see on the left hand side. It's not just adding more features, it's adding the specific features that I need for my business. And of course, what I believe LinkedIn does very nicely, when I'm using LinkedIn, that's on the lower right hand side, um, I'm constantly reminded that now would maybe be a great time to upgrade into one of these premium memberships or into one of these boxes that LinkedIn is offering. With this freebie to premium membership, we see that a lot on especially newer sites, newer services on the web. But I believe that this could also be taken to different areas. For instance, cars. Yes, if you want to lease a car, you have typically a multi-year contract, like a 3 or 5 year contract, and you have to predefine the kilometers, the miles that you're going to drive. And if you drive too many miles, you have to pay at the end. Yes. I'm always surprised that I am not able to actually buy a certain mileage. So for instance, if there is something happening in my life, which I didn't know 2 years ago, and I need to drive a long distance or whatever it is, then why shouldn't I be able to buy another 5,000 kilometers at a relatively good price, instead of waiting to the end and then um, pay a pretty big amount of money for each kilometer that I have driven too much. So I believe that this idea of freebie to premium membership could be applied to more traditional industries than just the internet industry. In-app sales, that's related to what I've been mentioning before. In-app sales is, again, a relatively new term. It's related to the iPhone, because the iPhone introduced the term app. And the idea is that I can use a basic version of the software for free, but if I want to do something specifically now, I have to pay for it. The very big example would be the upper left in games. So in games, I can basically, get to a next level because I achieve many things. I answer a lot of questions. I collect a lot of whatever it is, gold coins or whatever it is. But then I maybe need something else, a sword or whatever it is. And I actually have to pay real money for this. Or I could use my virtual money. And if I don't have enough virtual money, I can use my real money to buy this sword or whatever it is. So that's the origin of in-app sales coming from games. Of course, today it's used very broadly. So on the right hand side, again, we have a LinkedIn where we have something. Let's say this is the example of Brandon. This example. So there is obviously somebody interested in his resume or in his CV, and then he basically has option to do things one time. So that's not buying a package, which I mentioned before. He can basically say, oh, that company is looking for me and that company sounds interesting, so let's do something. Yes, so try for free and then pay later, hopefully. Of course, we also have more extensive applications of these in-app sales. The lower part, that's the example of a service app from SVB, a train company in Switzerland, and it basically allows you to map different options for your travel. So on the very left hand side, we can see this customer has checked going by train, by car, by vehicle, by rented car, or by rented vehicle. And then it basically, or the customer says, I want to go from, in this case, it's from Bern to Zermatt. And then it gets a long list of different options by train, by car, and so on. And then it can look at the detail, and for each detail, there is a whole lot of options what he might need to buy. And here we can bring in all, well, in this case, the second last example, or actually the middle example is the example where the customer has chosen mainly the train. So in the fourth iPhone screen, we can see that it offers everything related to trains, all the services related to trains. And in the last one would be the payment option for the trains. And if you would choose something else, if you would choose, for instance, the car, and it's around January, and in Switzerland you need to buy a plaquette to use the highways. So around January, it would suggest where you can buy this plaquette in case you don't have one, or if it's very snowy, it would suggest offering snow chains. Or if you go to Zermatt, you have two options. Um, uh, you can go around the Alps, or you can cross the Alps with a tunnel, and you can load your car onto a train and then go through the tunnel. And if you chose this tunnel option, you could actually in the fourth and the fifth screen, you could actually reserve your space on that train already. So this is the example of tremendous in-app sales opportunities. Of course, it's related, or it's only possible if you have a lot of partners, especially the last example. You need many partners, but nevertheless, you need some kind of knowledge that the customer has a certain need at this point in time, and at this point in time, he's really interested to put down some money to get something. Beforehand, he was not ready to do so, but now at this specific time of consummation, he's like totally willing, totally happy to put down a significant amount of money for this specific option. And that's the idea of in-app sales, that in general the customer does not see any need for this service or for this product, but in a specific situation he's very, very willing. He has a big need to actually have it, and therefore he's willing to pay. And the idea of in-app sales is basically understanding at this point in time, like right now, the customer is approaching such a point where he has additional needs and he's willing to pay. And again, this concept of understanding that the customer is approaching something like this understanding could be taken to any other industry again. And then the in-app sales could be like a push notification for something, and the customer can buy. This could be, again, this could be anything. Like insurance company could post that there is a certain risk, like a weather risk or tornado or something, and then they could say, your current insurance doesn't cover that, but you could upgrade, and then in one click he could basically upgrade his insurance to cover for tornado for the next 24 hours or whatever it is. Next one, there is always many companies choose different prices based on the time of consumption. And the great examples again is the travel industry, Expedia, Lufthansa, Deutsche Bahn, so that's the flights and travels, but also the hotels. For the hotels, we look at the middle part, the glacier time, the winter classic time, or the winter magic time. That's actually different times, different weeks of the year. And like the winter magic, the last one, that's the high season. Many people in Switzerland have holidays or come to the ski resort. So the price for this time is higher because there is a lot of consumption, there is a lot of customers, so they can charge higher prices. Of course, this also applies for any summit. If there is a summit, typically the prices for the hotels are ridiculously high. On the upper right side, we have the happy hour. So like weekdays from 5 to 7, people tend to not really go to a bar. They go later. So with the happy hour, the bars try to bring in the customers early, potentially hoping that they actually stay after having 3-4 drinks. They actually stay in the bar, they don't leave. Then this yellow piece, that's from a grocery store, from Migros grocery store in Switzerland, Cumulus. That's their loyalty points, and it basically says if you buy on Saturday, you get like the 8 times the points, the loyalty points that you would normally get. And this is again because they believe that on Saturday, for whatever reason, there won't be that many customers, and this attracts additional customers to come on Saturday instead of Friday, for instance. Then the price for the gasoline, that's also there is also price discrimination based on the time of consumption. It's less obvious, but it does exist. It actually exists tremendously. It depends a little bit on the country, but Germany is one of the countries where we believe that every time before the holidays, the prices, they just increase incredibly. And it's every year before the summer holiday when everybody need to fill up to drive long distances somewhere to the holidays. The prices, they just go up. In the middle, we have a very different example. We have the example of ads. Yes, so we have on the first line we have the different providers. In this case, it's TV channels. Yes, and on the left side down we have the different weekdays as well as the time. So depending on the day, depending on the time during the day, the ad has a different price. And of course, different channels also ask for different prices. Yes. So here we see a little bit of complex matrix of when do I have to pay how much for my ad. Yes. And I, as customer or as a company that is using this ad as a customer, um, I have to choose when do I reach my consumers where, and then I have to decide, am I willing to pay this price and so on. Last but not least, we have a list of prices for the iPhone 5. It compares the prices in 2005 and 2015 and 2016 by different countries. So the first country would be Brazil, and the price dropped by, or didn't drop, the price was 156% higher in 2015 than it was in 2016. So it dropped by 1/3, so to say. And then Indonesia, Sweden, India, and so on. So this is how much the price changed over the course of 1 year, how much it dropped over the course of 1 year. Great. So again, we all know these differences in prices based on the time of consumption. The question is really, why do companies do it, and what is the right approach for our case study? So for the hotel, they know basically years in advance when are the vacation times, when do we have a lot of people coming, when can we have high prices, what is the date of the summit, and so on. For the happy hour, it might be a little different. It's maybe attracting customers to come to the bar early, hoping to stay. For the retail loyalty points, it's more kind of a short term, maybe a little bit the short term activity to steer customer behavior or to move customer behavior from today to tomorrow. Again, the fuel is similar to the hotel, and the prices for the iPhone, that's obviously related to different factors like technology cycles. It's less predictable how much the prices go down. As it maybe also depends on the competition when Samsung is bringing out something new. Maybe also on the margins of the suppliers. Excuse me, the channel, the actual retailers where you buy the iPhone. So for the iPhone, we might have a little bit a more complex structure how these price changes do actually appear. Nevertheless, and that's the important message also for the ads, for the TV ads, customers, they anticipate such price changes and they will behave accordingly. So in Brazil, people just know that the phone might be 1/3 less expensive after 1 year. That's their reality, that's what they know. They don't care about the reason, that's just the way it is. So if I want to buy or if I want to sell the iPhone early, I have to make sure that I find ways how to motivate the customers to buy immediately instead of waiting 1 year. And that's the main message. The time price discrimination based on the time of consumption sends a signal to the customers, and in certain industries, these signals are in my favor. In other industries or at other times, these are not in my favor. And if these signals, the customer behavior is not in my favor, I have to use additional activities to counter this not so ideal customer behavior that I face currently. In addition to the time of consumption, there is also a discrimination regarding the price based on the time of ordering or the time of booking. And here are some examples, and it's typically some kind of discount. At the upper left is basically a year-end or fourth quarter activity, basically saying 20% discount if you still buy this year. So this is to increase the revenue of the current year. On the right hand side, that's the example of a cover-up. They are making some advertising in Facebook and are basically saying very short term, buy now until tonight. So if you order now, you get a discount, again 20%. If you do not order, then you don't get a discount, or maybe later. So this is more to convince the ones that have almost decided to buy. With this discount, they are now convinced. And on the lower part, two examples that's a little bit different. That's buy now, pay later. One is for wedding rings on the left hand side. That's for wedding rings. On the right hand side, that's for PlayStation or for Xbox from Microsoft. And here we have basically a different idea. It's something that happens now, especially at wedding. Maybe people are a little bit short on money. That's why a certain extended payment period is allowed. For the Xbox, it's maybe because they earn more money on the games than they do earn on the device itself. So that's why a retailer would allow for late payment for the Xbox, hoping that in the meantime they would sell a lot of games. Again, different options possible. It must fit your current situation with the customer, your current intention. So is it really more a promotional activity to capture or to give the last motivation to the customer to actually buy? Is it more a year-end activity to secure some revenues? Or is it that you actually want to put the device in the customer's home, and then you have the follow-up revenue, which we discussed some pages before. Regarding price, there is also a discrimination by customer group, for instance, by age and so on. The first example would be the Swiss Youth Hostel, because on the second line there you can see that actually members pay less. So they distinguish between a group that is member and all the others that are non-members. On the left-hand side, that's a very common discrimination. It's by age. So children pay less, and maybe also elderly people pay less because they don't have any income. They don't have any income anymore. Then on the left-hand side, the red, for the G suite, they are distinguishing for new businesses, so that's kind of startup for small and medium-sized businesses and for large businesses. So again, we can argue that they have different needs. Large companies have different needs. Maybe they also have different budgets, different number of users, different requirements for support. So here it's not necessarily a price bundling only. It might also include some service options or so that come together with the respective price. On the lower left part, that's the example from the Simin National Park entrance fees. That's a national park in Ethiopia. And if you go down, on the left-hand side, if you go down, you will actually see that they distinguish between Ethiopian people, foreigners that live in Ethiopia, and foreigners that do not live in Ethiopia. So this is a grouping that is maybe a little bit uncommon to us, but as we can see in different countries or in different cultures, very different grouping approaches exist. Then we have again the Cumulus example. That's the loyalty points of the grocery retailer in Switzerland, Migros. And this is a program called Fra Migros. So if you are a family and you are registered with Migros, then you get additional loyalty bonuses. This example is a 10 time, so a multiplicator of the points by 10 that you can use if you are a family. So the group distinguishing would be, are you a family, yes or no? And last but not least, on the lower right-hand side, there is also a discrimination by country. So like the countries would be the different groups. That's the prices for the iPhone 5. And here you can see that different countries in Europe or Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, they pay very, very different prices for basically the same device. Discounts, that's another price mechanism. It's typically a little short term. And of course, there are things like Black Friday, for instance. So that's just an event, a day that comes up every year. Other than that, there are unlimited discount options. For instance, on the very top, there is a discount if something is new, and it must not only be a discount, it could also be a multiplication of the loyalty points. You get one free if you refer a friend. So if you bring a new customer, you get something for free. Or during a certain time, there is these bicycles that have a 20% discount if you are a member, if you're a loyal customer member. Or on the right-hand side, it's this reopening. So if a store has been closed for renovation or so, and on the day of the reopening there is a 10% discount, making sure to remember everybody how great the location was, how much better, to show how much better the location is now. Or you, instead of a discount, you can obviously increase the number of loyalty points. So that's a plus 555 loyalty points that you get. Or if you go to the lowest line, there are this promotional packaging. So you get 2 for the price of 1, or you get something extra for the normal price. Yes, or if you buy multiple, you get a certain discount. So that's the motivation to buy many at the same time. And last but not least, that's an example of a gym, who's basically saying that you can bring one of your friends for free at least 1 time or 2 times. And obviously, again, the idea is that the friend would then also stay with that gym and get some kind of membership. So discounts, anything is possible. Here it's really important that the type of discount matches what you're trying to achieve. So is it more a short-term thing? Is it more a long-term thing? Is it basically a sell-off after Christmas, for instance? Is it something that the whole industry does that you just have to follow? So that's the Black Friday, for example. Is it a special product that you want to introduce newly? Is it an initiative to bring new customers, friends, to your store, to make them your customers? So depending on what you actually try to achieve, different discounts might be the right approach. Specific locations. So now we're moving to the next topic, that's the place. And very obviously, if you look at cities, for instance, different cities are very attractive for different type of customer. So, for instance, if we would have to find the right place for a vegan restaurant, and we would have to compare Manchester and Helsinki, just as an example, maybe we would do something like a small waterfall saying, okay, what is the population of each of those cities? What is the percentage of vegans? What is the population growth? How many nights per month they go out for eating? What is the purchasing power, and what is the average spending per lunch or per dinner? And based on these numbers, we could calculate the expected revenue or potentially the expected profit. So this would be a clear structure, how we can select which of the 2 locations, Manchester or Helsinki, would be the better one to actually set up a vegan restaurant. And please keep in mind that's the lower 2 pictures. Both of them are Zurich. So different parts of a city might look very differently, might be very attractive for very different customer groups. So maybe the selection that I just introduced in Manchester or Helsinki is not detailed enough. instead, maybe we need to look at one quarter, so one specific location within Manchester, and compare it to another location in Manchester to really grasp the right customer group. So place does matter because there are different cultures, different people, different income, different spending behaviors in different locations, and we need to grasp the one location that is best suited for what we are trying to do. And again, it might be very specific to our business, to our products that we're selling, so we cannot go by an average. Yes, for instance, if you look at the vegan restaurant, we cannot look at the restaurant business. We really have to be more specific than that and make sure that we can capture the best location for the specific customers that we want to serve. The next question, if we talk about place, would be offline and online. And for many things, I believe it's a definite and. The question is really, what is offline and what is online? So this is the upper left one. That's the example of the Swiss Railway, SBB. And of course, you can still buy tickets at the counter, and I think that will be existent for a very long time. But you also have the automatic machines where you can get a ticket, your pass. Yes, and again, that's a little bit old. They are around since quite some time. They're quite popular. And again, if you are using online facilities, then you still have some kind of paper copy of your pass. But obviously, if you go online, then you might have just a code, a QR code on your smartphone that serves as your pass. Here, the example would be that this automatic machine on the right side, that's like an easy step. That's just replacing the counter. If you really want to go online, so that's a smartphone with the QR code, then inside the train, you have to have the devices to actually read those QR codes as well. So if you really want to go online, you have to have an end-to-end solution. All your well, not all, but many of your backbone processes must also be online, enabled for this digital world. And if that is too much of a stretch, then a mid-term solution such as this automatic machine is maybe a great option to make a first step without having the need to change all your behind-the-scenes processes as well. So the next example where we can basically see the exact same thing is on the upper right-hand side. That's the banking business. And some years ago, we saw the upper two pictures. So we had in the back office, we had many people typing, doing repetitive work. On the front end, we had many people that were actually coming to the counter. And today, at least in Western Europe, today there is no real need to actually go to the bank, to visit the bank. You can do most of the things or everything online, at least for your payment transactions. And again, this online possibility requires that both parts of the upper picture, so the backbone as well as the front end, is being translated into an online world. Again, maybe moving everything online is too much of a stretch, so some kind of combination would be the right approach for a specific company. There are some businesses that are believed to be offline only. One of them would be on the lower left side, the real estate market. Currently, the real estate market is believed to be not exclusively, of course, there are portals, there are pictures, there are search engines for houses, for real estate, for rent. But at the end of the day, People believe that they have to go there. There must be some kind of agent involved that helps you through the process of acquiring, especially acquiring a house. However, we also see things like 360-degree videos, which slowly move into a more digital solution for real estate businesses. Here, I would try to keep Uber in your mind, because the taxi industry is one of the industry that was believed to be very local. And before Uber, there was not a single like national or even multinational taxi organization. Taxi companies used to be very, very local. And Uber came up with a model to really take that local offline business into a whole new online dimension. So if we try to really understand what happened with Uber, maybe that's an example that many businesses that we believe are relatively strong offline can be moved into an online business as well. One other such example would be Amazon Go or Amazon Fresh. So those are the stores, the shopping possibilities, the offline shopping possibilities that Amazon is opening up currently in the US, maybe later in other countries as well. Shopping for salad was something that again was believed to be very offline oriented. Of course, there are online shops, but Amazon is a perfect example of a company that used to be online and now is moving into the offline business as well. So I truly believe that it's not a question offline or online, as Amazon is indicating as well. You have to combine the two aspects. The real question is which part is offline and which part is online. How integrated are your processes? Are you going for an end-to-end online solution or some kind of intermediate step where part of the transaction with the customer is online and everything else remains offline? And again, this online portion could be many things. It could be pre-information, it could be payment, it could be post information, it could be follow-up maintenance. There are different options how you combine offline and online into a single user experience. Next one for place is that you try to partner up with partners that already have touch points with the relevant customers. So let's say you have selected a certain customer base and you really try to reach out to them. And how can you do that? You are looking for partners. So first on the left upper side, that's the Impact Hub. That's a co-working space. And as you can see, it allows other companies to engage with them, such as Swisscom or Winterthur Insurance. Swisscom, that's a mobile phone carrier. Winterthur, that's an insurance company, or also Credit Suisse, so the bank. So the idea would be that at the Impact Hub, there are a lot of people that try to start their own company, startup. And all of them have the need for a bank account, for insurance, and for mobile phones. So here, the Impact Hub has touch points to new customers, and now the Impact Hub is partnering with banks, insurances, and so on to make sure that, or to allow those banks, insurances to access their own customer, the customers of the Impact Hub. Of course, the Impact Hub gets some money from the banks and the insurances to do that, but for the banks and the insurance, it's very interesting to partner with the Impact Hub that has these touch points to the potential new customers and new clients. On the upper right-hand side, that's that's SBB, the Swiss Railway, once again, because they depend on activities that customers can look at or enjoy at the end of the travel. So the purpose of the travel is actually to visit something, and then the train is just the mean to actually get there. So SBB is another company that allows many partners to bring their events or activities onto their platform, into their stores, into the displays, because if there are attractive destinations to visit, more people will more often use the train. So again, some kind of win-win situation. On the right-hand side, the Chinese picture, the somewhat Chinese picture, that's the collaboration between Nestlé and Alibaba. Alibaba is a huge online store, we can say, in China, and it has great understanding of customer behavior. And Nestlé, as a food company, they need to know the customer behavior to offer the right products. So Nestlé is lacking in understanding for the Chinese customer, for the Chinese market. So they partner up with Alibaba, who has all the data for the consumer behavior, but Alibaba lacks the product, lacks the food product that Nestlé can offer in this partnership. So Alibaba has the relevant touchpoints with customers, and Nestlé is using these touchpoints again. Last but not least, on the lower left side and middle, that's two radio stations from St. Gallen, that's Toxic FM and FM1. And just by looking at the two websites, you can sense that the two radio stations attract very, very different customers. And here it is important for a company to really understand which customers does each of the two radio stations address and which one is the right to actually collaborate with. So the lower one is more the idea of selecting the right partner that has the contact to the right customers. And obviously, radio stations, they typically depend significantly on ad money. So radio station, they are very, very happy to collaborate with you, to offer their touch points to their customers. So here it's really a question to select the right radio station where my potential customers are actually to be found, or at least to be found at certain times. So partnership is always a little bit difficult because the brand and the image of each partner will, shine onto the other partner. That can be positive, that can be not so positive. But the two companies are no longer separate. They start to have a similarity, or a relationship that can have some not so positive aspects or feelings associated with it. Nevertheless, it's a very quick way to reach out to a network of existing partners or existing customers, I have to say. And therefore, it's oftentimes a very good and easy option to move forward very, very fast. In many situations, there are also implementation partners. So it's basically two streams of implementation partners. So let's look at the upper one. That's on the left-hand side, we have the finished building. And what does it actually need to get to a finished building? Well, one step to the right, we need an architect. Yes, and the architect, he's actually drawing all the plans, so he does all the planning, but very obviously he requires additional specialists. So on the upper part, he requires some sanitation experts. On the lower part, he requires some electrician to come up with, in the case of the electrician, the detailed plan for the electricity, then doing all the installations, and last but not least, he needs the products. This would be the light bubbles, for instance. The same goes for the sanitation. You need some kind of planning for the bathroom and where all the water flows. You need somebody who installs it, and you need the actual products that make it happen. So this, yeah, the craftsman on the right hand side, or the manufacturers on the right hand side, they are important partners for the architect. Yes. Now, there can be changes in the market, of course, and one big change in the real estate industry is what they call building information modeling. And that's basically the cycle that we see on the lower left side. Building information modeling is the idea that we have digital data. So the architect is not drawing plans, instead he's creating a digital data. And this digital data can be used by everybody during the process of planning, during the process of building, as well as during the process of managing the house, living in the house, maintaining the house, maybe renovating the house. Now, what is interesting here, people like Geberit and Philips, so the manufacturers, they are highly interested in these software systems, because what they can do, they can provide data or plugins, whatever you want to call it. So the architect can actually plan the details for the electricity planning or the bathroom planning himself. So we can cut out this implementation partner, the craftsman. They are no longer needed, because the software itself, the two pieces of software, the software plugin from Geberit and Philips, as well as the building information modeling system, they can make sure that all the detailed planning makes sense. Why do we need the craftsman? We need the craftsman to make sure that all the detail, the specific of the electricity of the bathrooms are considered correctly. That's knowledge that the architect does not have. He does not have the detailed knowledge for electricity planning. But if the software can provide all the checks and the details, making sure that all the plans match, then we don't need the craftsman anymore. And if all the data is available electronically, we maybe can even go a step further and have a robot implementing these systems, and then we really do no longer need these craftsmen on the right hand side. So implementation partners can be great partners. They can help us to bring our products to market, or we can foresee that the chain of implementation partner changes. So in this case, it's a software that takes over many activities, many roles. And then we can try to integrate with this software, which allows Geberit and Philips to offer or to have new roads to the customer, to the end customer. Last for place is the payment option. Well, payment, we can say that payment is like a no-brainer. You just put money on the table or a credit card, and that's fine. I believe that we do see more interesting options to pay, and I believe some of them are definitely worth being mentioned. One of the most interesting one is Audible, or is offered by Audible. Audible, that's actually a company of Amazon, and it's a company that offers, it's an online company that offers books that you can listen to. So, and what they allow that you pay a monthly subscription fee, and with this monthly subscription fee, you have the right to download, let's call it download, a certain number of books. If you do not download the books, the right will remain in your account. So you can basically save the books and pile up the number of books that you're allowed to download. So normally a subscription fee is ending at the end of the month, let's say, but here it's really more a monthly fee, and you can accumulate all the consumptions that you haven't consumed yet. And now, more interesting is the second one. You can also use your credits, so to say, and you can donate them as a gift certificate to somebody else. So now your monthly subscriptions actually turn into some kind of virtual currency. And assuming that this could be a model for the future, it means that Audible might now test this payment approach and maybe move it to Amazon in the future. And I think that's tremendous if you can pay a certain amount to Amazon every month, and then it is basically stored in your Amazon account and you can use it anytime in the future. So Amazon might actually become your bank. You're storing your money in the Amazon account because you just know that sometime soon you will have a need to buy something, and you're pretty sure that you can buy that at Amazon. So if this payment approach is being taken to Amazon, Amazon could to a certain extent replace the banks with saving accounts. A little less out is the upper right example. So that's basically Facebook Messenger, which integrates in-app payments with PayPal. So here we have a combination that two players in the virtual market, Facebook and PayPal, are aligning their strengths, and they are allowing, or they're using each other's benefits for both companies to actually increase their sale and increase the customer offerings. So again, I believe that's an interesting method how to use payment, PayPal in this case, to kind of make an edge or have an edge in the customer service. And last but not least, we again turn to Amazon, because Amazon there is a question, how can I load money to my Amazon account? And what it is, you can go to 7-Eleven, CVS or GameStop, and there you can pay money to the cashier of, let's say, 7-Eleven, and you get a barcode, and you can scan that barcode, and this barcode actually adds money to your Amazon cash account. So that's another indication that Amazon is really looking for new options how to have people transferring money onto the Amazon account. So with such payment options, companies can really try to distinguish themselves. Of course, for companies like Amazon, it's a little bit easier because Amazon is so big, offers so many products that anybody could see himself buying something from Amazon in the near future. If you are selling, let's say, furniture, then it might be a little bit different because, let's say, a sofa or a bed you only buy every 5 or every 10 years. And then obviously it's a different topic, because people will not be willing to pay money onto your account because they don't know when they need it and if they are actually buying the next sofa at your place or maybe your competitor. Promotion. Promotion has different aspects. Again, promotion is a very broad topic, and I think you must distinguish between different aspects of the promotion. And the first one would be awareness. And awareness is basically really looking out for new customers, making people aware that your company exists or that a certain topic exists, that maybe they have some kind of need that they don't really know, but let's create awareness, let's connect some dots so consumers or customers start to think into the right direction. So on the left hand side, this bird, this dead seabird, is basically an indication of all the things that we throw away and that ends up in the ocean, and then it ends up in some kind of a seabird's stomach, which makes the seabird die. Well, again, the question is, what does it mean? What is the product or the service that I'm selling and which would be sold more often now that the people are aware to not throw away the waste into the ocean? But for the time being, that's a different matter. That's a different topic. Here, it's really examples what awareness creation could mean. Another example is the top one, Black Lives Matter. That's the Facebook or the social media hashtag that was used, that was spread. And again, that was a pretty big initiative. Football players were kneeling down as a sign of protest. So if you can raise such a movement for a certain topic, then you definitely have the right awareness. Again, how you can translate this into more sales, that's a second question, but I think it's still a great example how awareness is being spread and can or was multiplied in such an incident. Of course, the incident itself is more than questionable and very, very sad. Then all the activities for cancer, they use this red ribbon as an indication. That's also one way of create awareness, and maybe long-term people remember over and over again that the problem is not finished. On the right-hand side, that's the Toyota example, or that's a Toyota ad, and this is really raising awareness. How much pollution a car actually has. And this would be the awareness that there are cars that are polluting significantly less, in this case even less than a sheep. On the lower part, we have the SAP advertising. Now, these advertising can be found on airports, for instance. Now the question is, why on airports? How many people that pass this ad are actually buying SAP or are involved in some kind of process, decision making to buy SAP? And I think it's not so many. It's a personal belief, it's not so many. But I believe that most of the people that pass this ad are somehow confronted with SAP. So either their company has SAP or they're involved in some kind of project to assess if SAP would be a good option to buy or similar. So in my understanding, this ad is truly an awareness campaign. So SAP wants to make sure to be in the minds of the people. So everybody they don't know SAP, but they have heard the name SAP, and there are positive associations. Yes, like good running, better than before. And these positive messages are somewhere in the back of their minds. And then when these people hear SAP in their company, they already have these positive things in their mind. Stop AIDS, that's a very old campaign, but sadly, we still need to be reminded of the problem of AIDS. And then also these icons, again, that's Black Lives Matters or Me Too. Again, both very, very sad topics, but I think these are great examples how awareness rising awareness can multiply or could be used to bring a certain topic to the plate, into the discussions, and once it's discussed, we can expect actions. If topics are not discussed and no action, but once we start some kind of awareness, we can maybe move these discussions into sales and therefore more revenues. Information. So maybe after rising awareness, there is this information piece where the customer really understands what we are trying to sell, what is in it for him. So this is more specific. So the left example, that's again the SBB, that's the Swiss railway system. And this campaign, it was actually a video campaign. It actually showed how you can use the new mobile app, how easy it is to use the new mobile app and buy your passes. Wix on the upper side, that's again a video campaign showing how easy it is with Wix to start your own website, that you can really start in like 10 minutes to create your own website. So that was purely information. How to do it, you can try it yourself. Then there are other information aspects on the lower left side. That's 1&1. That's a mobile phone provider, mobile phone carrier in Germany. And this is basically an information about the price, how much you get. So it's 3 flat rates for a very low price. Excuse me. The middle one, that's for Toyota RAV4. That's again a price information, how cheap it actually is to lease such a vehicle now. And last but not least, on the right hand side, that's information, that's advertising, informing people about certain selling dates. There is live music with Santa, so that's maybe great for the children. So that's a good opportunity to bring the children and to buy. But that's purely information. This is the time where you have to be. This is what you can expect. So bring along your children. And last but not least, there is the information for this discount in India. That's an example from India. And it's only on 3 days, so 3rd to 5th of January. So clear information on which day you can expect this kind of discount. So these are examples of promotions of advertising that has a clear informational character. So now the customer really knows what he can expect when, what is expected to do or what he has to do, and what is the value in it for him. Promotion, the next topic for promotion would be upselling. So once the customer has actually decided to buy something, companies could try to make him buy more, so sell more to the customer that has already decided to buy something. The upper example, that's McDonald's. So if he decides to buy a hamburger, he should add some additional things, and that's actually then a package price. So that's a typical example of upselling. The lower part, left part, that's from Amazon again. Here we are looking at a certain brush, and then on the lower side, on the lower part, it would actually offer additional brushes with additional information. Yes, and very obviously here the idea would be that for the more expensive brush, I would see some advantages, and then I would see that I'm actually willing to pay the higher price to actually get these additional advantages. So that's another form of upselling, that you actually provide some additional information explaining the customer why he should pay more for a product with more features. The last example on the right hand side, that's taken from a grocery shop. So this is different chocolate. And again, we could talk hours about these pictures. So typically the lower price chocolate is at the bottom, maybe at the very top. So it's uncomfortable to kneel down and get the chocolate from the lowest part. So that's why the cheap chocolate is typically in the lowest part. And in the middle, where it's easy to reach and take out, that's basically the most expensive chocolate. So that's again upselling. Once the customer has decided to buy some kind of chocolate, he goes to the chocolate display and he reaches out to the most easy one, and there he actually picks the most expensive one. Cross-selling, that's a little different. It's similar but different. Again, the customer has already decided to buy something, and then on the upper left-hand side, that's again the example from Amazon, that you actually indicate that if you buy a tent, maybe you need a sleeping bag, maybe you need some kind of torch, and you offer some kind of nice price, and you hope that the customer is going to also buy these additional items that are linked to the initial product that the customer is looking at. Another example, it's also from Amazon, is on the lower left side. This is the example that you want to buy some kind of wooden cover for a balcony, let's say, and then it would give you a lot of information how you can use or how you have to implement or lay these wooden plates. And it's basically saying below, if you're unable to do this, we know that there are 3 experts, craftsmen, that would be more than happy to help you. And of course, you can click and you can connect to them and they can come and help you out with your activities. Of course, Amazon is getting a small fee for this recommendation service. That's also cross-selling, that you're basically saying that the company, or Amazon in this case, is saying, well, if you need additional services, we can connect with somebody who can offer these services for you. So it's more a platform and more bringing the right people together instead of selling something in addition. Now moving to the right side on the very top, those would be the example of short videos. And of course these videos, they explain many things for a sleeping bag in this example, but of course they will show you how it's used, in what situation, in what circumstances, what other aspects you should consider, and potentially what other products you might want to buy. Cross-selling can also go to other customers, so that's more recommendation selling, and that's the middle example, the giveaway from Amazon. So if I see something, I'm interested in something, I can actually set up my giveaway and send that giveaway to somebody else, motivating him to buy what I just saw. So that's basically, and again, there is a price discount included with it, so different features that Amazon is adding here. So if I know that somebody else has a certain need and I see something on Amazon, I make it very easy to notify my friend and he can then buy it at a reduced price. So that's cross-selling between different people. And last but not least, that's again the example from Migros, the grocery retailer in Switzerland. And for all the events like Christmas or Easter and so on, they have these themes where they show you what combination of food and non-food or decoration you might want to buy. So the idea is that, for instance, Christmas, you need food because you're inviting people, so you want to cook this really great dinner but together with the dinner you need some decoration material, you need some gifts. So they make it very easy for you to find all the items at basically one place, so you get it inspired and you buy more than you initially intended to buy. So cross-selling is typically a little bit easy because the customer is already seeing himself in the situation of consuming the product, and at this point in time, the company might be able to inspire him even more. Again, different options apply. Which one is the right depends on your company and the specific product that you're selling or the additional cross-selling product that you want to sell to the customer. Rebate point collection, that's obviously almost the same if you get a repoint immediately, or you get points that you can use later and then you don't have to pay in the future. A typical very widely known program would be the loyalty programs like Miles and More from the Star Alliance group. So you basically earn miles, then by flying you earn miles, or by shopping in certain locations you earn miles, and then you can spend these miles. There is basically a shop where you can spend the miles, where you can buy different items and you pay with your miles, or you can use them for upgrades on your flights or any other services that you consume in the defined network of Miles and More. That's great. Of course, there are different options again. On the lower left-hand side, we have from Kroger a receipt, and on the receipt, so if you buy at Kroger, you get a receipt, and on the receipt, or together with the receipt, you would earn some points, and you can either influence them or not so much. However, in this case, we have earned some cents for the Kleenex, for 2 different Kleenex tissues. And obviously, if we collect enough, we can actually get one of these Kleenex boxes for free in this example. So that's a different approach. It's very similar to the loyalty program of Miles and More, but it's implemented a little bit different. So it's more a gamble because I don't really know what I'm gonna get, which points I'm gonna get. In this case, it's 2 times the Kleenex points. So that's more a gamble, but obviously Kroger knows that I'm a loyal customer and I very often buy Kleenex, so he would only provide points to something that I typically buy quite frequently. Again, Amazon has introduced their own point system. Yes. So what they have basically been doing, they know that some customers, they have points at Hilton Hotel or Chase or whatever it is, and they don't use these points. So Amazon is basically allowing customers to use the points of another system to pay at Amazon. So that's Amazon found a way to actually fight these traditional loyalty programs a little bit, because the loyalty program is really, to a certain extent, it's meant that you stay within the sphere of Hilton. Yes. And if you can all of a sudden use them to pay outside of Hilton, that contradicts the original loyalty idea a little bit. Of course, you're still motivated to come back to Hilton instead of Radisson, for instance, and spend the night at Hilton, because you can then earn some points that you can use at Amazon. Gift certificates and recommendations. Again, tons of options exist. From Lifty, for instance, get your first ride free, and then you have some kind of code. That's obviously the idea that once you have done it, so the first time is a little bit a change So you need the customer needs some additional motivation to try it the first time. And the company Lifty believes that the ride is so good that every time after, he will automatically use Lifty and no longer the traditional taxi. Get 20% cash back if you use a certain payment method. Again, that's the motivation to start using this payment method. Amazon, of course, Amazon has also some kind of gift certificates and discounts if you do recommend something. This is the idea that you spend $15 on that book, and right now you get a $5 discount if you have the promotional code, of course. Then we have ideas in the middle. We have this idea that are a little bit unrelated, I would say. So if you buy HP cartridges for your printer, you get a gift card from Shell. And I think that printer cartridges, and Shell gasoline is unrelated, but nevertheless, somehow the two companies have some kind of collaboration, and the HP as well as Shell believe that the combination is beneficial for the customer. So many customers that buy cartridges also need gasoline and might be interested of going to Shell. And again, Shell obviously believes that once the customer have visited Shell, they would come back to Shell because it's so much nicer than BP, for instance. Recommendation. So we move to recommendations a little bit more. Of course, eBay, for instance, is using extensive information. So they are using recommendations by other traders or sellers, buyers, to indicate or to increase a certain level of trust. With Lifty, we have seen a price reduction as a motivation to try it out, to build trust by trying through a discount. eBay is basically using transparency to build that trust, indicate that the seller is trustworthy, and so I, as a buyer, I may not have any hesitation to actually buy from this seller because it's a trusted, it's transparently known that the seller is a trusted person. And last but not least, recommendations can also be in the form of if I bring a new user, Dropbox, if I bring a new user, I get additional space for free. So I kind of get a discount if I recommend one of my friends using it. Again, we have very, very different approaches, and it's always the idea to basically remove some kind of initial barrier and to give enough confidence or enough motivation in the form of discount, in the form of transparency, for the customer to move forward with his purchase or his testing of the service at a certain point in time. Now, let's bring all these ideas together. And in marketing, we are using a concept that we call AIDA. And now I'm going to walk you through an example of AIDA. So on the left-hand side, AIDA is explained. It's A for attention, I for interest, D for desire, and A for action. So the idea is that every customer must go through these 4 steps. So the customer must get attention that a certain product exists. He must get an interest, so he must kind of understand, this product offers certain features that I'm actually interested in. And there must be some kind of desire where the customer says, now, I need it now. Now is the time where I really, really need it. And then there is action. So it must be easy for the customer to actually go to the website, for instance, and actually buy the product. So the example would be the the Toyota, green Toyota, hybrid Toyotas. So the attention is the example of the sheep to say, well, there are actually cars that are not polluting that much. Then on the right hand side would be the interest. So here they are basically listing out 4 different types of Toyota hybrids, and the idea would be also indicated by the different pictures in the back. Different Toyotas exist, or different hybrids exist for different purposes. So if I need it more for business, big city applications, the left one would be for me if I'm really a suburban house owner commuting every day a little bit longer. Then the green version would maybe be the right one for me. In the middle, we have desire. So here again, it's 2 different uh, models. On the left-hand side, it's really some kind of young, hip, stylish car where um, there is a certain emotion that is transported by the left picture for young people saying, yes, I see myself. Yes, this is something where I would get to, and so this emotional feeling is transported. On the right hand side, it's more, I would say, for rational people. That's an ad that is again indicating on a somewhat emotional level, but for rational people, that it is now the right time to think about buying such a car. And last but not least, we have the action. And here we have 2 examples. On the left hand side, it's basically again some kind of discount where you say, if you trade in now is the time to go to your dealership, and if you do so, you get an upgrade and you get a very good price, trade-in price for your old car, and even 3 years service free, so additional benefit. Or on the right hand side, that's the example of the different uh, models that you can buy. So that would be some kind of website where you can immediately click and reserve, or at least have somebody calling you back for a test drive with one of these models. So this would be the idea, that I start with attention. So the company is basically bringing attention to the general public, let's say, and then some people uh, react to the next advertising, to the interest advertising, and they are starting to become potential customers. And then through the desire advertising and the action advertising, as well as offerings, so the website where I can actually see those different Priuses, uh, the the customer walks through this cycle of getting from unknown individual to an actual paying customer at the end. Of course, we must adapt these cycles for different markets. So this would be the idea of a B2C, so business to consumer market. And this would be the example where we have many customers, so like a big group of customers. And again, the example is from the car industry. On the left-hand side, we have this idea of AIDA, and in this case, we go from clicks to click-through, visits, conversion rate, sale, word of mouth, and repeat customer on the left-hand side. And for cars, we hope that the customer goes through this process several times, let's say every 5 or every 10 years. And hopefully, that's the lower arrow, every time he actually buys a bigger car. He maybe start with some kind of Golf, Volkswagen Golf, but the next time he's a little bit older, maybe he has already family, so he's basically moving to a more expensive car. And later in the career, when he already moved up in the middle management or the top management, maybe he would buy some kind of Audi, Porsche, Bentley, or even Bugatti, which all belong to the same corporation, which is the Volkswagen Group. So, in the first case, when we try to sell a Golf, the clicks would be, of course, online, like Google Ecosia, or even Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, or displays on train stations, for instance. Visits would be a little bit more. Yes, we need to have the right place. We discussed that. Where in the city am I being placed? Where can I be found in the city? And of course, I typically need some kind of landmark that speaks to my customer group. Conversion rate is then that if they do come to my store, they always find something. So there is no reason to leave without actually paying. Yes, which leads us to the sale. The sales is the actual activity to make sure that the customer can take it home and actually does pay. Word of mouth. I want the customer to share his positive experiences, and maybe there is even some kind of motivation to come back. Loyalty programs typically that I can reward customers that do come back. And this generic path on the left hand side is actually repeated, and as the customer grows into more expensive cars, into bigger cars, obviously the aspects, the example of the click-through visits and so on changes. So that's the middle part, or even the right side, where the website, the click-through of an upscaled car is obviously very, very different, or the showroom for an upscale car, again, must be something very different user experience than the Zara example that we discussed on the left-hand side. And for the repeat customer, at the end of the day, Bugatti has introduced, that's just an example, Bugatti has introduced the flying doctors. So the services of the car would actually be made on the site. So they come, the flying doctors, the mechanics, they come to you and repair everything on the site instead of you bringing it back to the dealership. So this is an example of how we can go multiple times through the AIDA process, so from the attention, from the clicks down to the action, to the repeat customer in this example. And in this example, it's also the idea that maybe the next time the customer goes through the process, we could move him up to a next higher car. And of course, that's like a matrix, and in every box of the matrix, we need different promotional activities. I'm not only talking about ads, I'm also talking about the showroom. Who am I going to invite? What music do I play in the showroom? What wine do I serve in the showroom? And so on. That's again B2C, but if I only sell to a small group of people, so it's a few people only, so it's more exclusive cycle of people that I want to connect to and hopefully reconnect. I think in this example, it's more a cycle to find the right people, find the right customer, to sell to them, and then to constantly understand in order to find the next sweet spot where I can sell to them again. So here the examples would include that I have some kind of exclusive option to approach them. So galleries, art is typically an interesting starting point where I can try to find very exclusive customers. Then I would try to engage them, which would include that I start collecting data. It's very important that I try to early on start to collect specific data. If I sell to many customers, like the page before, I can assume that on average, consumer use the car in a certain way. But if I only sell to a few customers, I must expect that every single customer is very different, is using the products very different, and therefore I must collect specific data to make sure I can serve that customer in a specific way next time. And with the data that I'm gathering, I really must understand what this specific customer is doing. And maybe I can already come up with suggestions. I believe that's something that Facebook is doing pretty nicely. They basically show me where I was some years ago. Typically, it kind of matches my situation, or it puts me in a good mood. So I believe that's pretty nice. Also, Booking.com is trying to do something very similar. I think they have not enough information to recommend really good things, at least to me. And if I really have collected enough data, I can try to even go into predictive use, predictive maintenance. So I have a very good belief that I know what the customer is going to do as a next step, and I can suggest it to him even before he's really thinking about this step. So if I sell to my customers, but to a few customers only, it is very important that together with the sale, I can start to collect data, which allows me to go back to my customer with specific suggestions in the near future. If we talk about business to business, it's a whole different story, and the collaboration is more rational, I would say. So one thing that you could think of is actually, how can I solve, or how can I support my customer to solve his problems for the end consumer? So I must think like 2 steps ahead, not only for my customer, but also for the customer of my customer, so to say. One example is Derendinger. That's a company that is delivering automotive spare parts to car repair shops. Now, the Derendinger had the problem, why should car shops, repair shops, buy or order the spare parts at Derendinger instead of anybody else? So what they came up with was the D-Store. So that's in the middle. And it's basically a huge online catalog where you can find any spare part with a lot of information, how to order, when to order, how to install, what to take care of, what other tools to use, what other spare parts to maybe also order or also be necessary. And it goes as far that that's the concept of the Garage Plus. They actually allow you to have your core operations on their computer. So if you order spare parts, they prepare the invoice that you can simply add the number of hours that you've been working, and then you can print, or the garage can print, the repair shop can print the invoice for the end consumer, for the owner of the car. So here, the Derendinger was able to build up a lot of services, take away a lot of the concerns of the repair shop, and through these additional services, the repair shop has an incentive to order all the spare parts with Derendinger. And the additional services are really tailored to giving the best possible service to the owner of the car. So it's not necessarily making the life of the repair shop easier, it's actually making the life of the car owner easier. Of course, it's to a certain extent that's the same thing. But nevertheless, Derendinger really thought about the customer of the customer instead of the customer only. Last but not least, there is also something like business to government. And business to government, we can discuss a long time. Is it different? Is it similar to, let's say, business to business, for instance? I think there are some differences, and it's basically this chain that is indicated with these cycles. Yes, and the big difference, I would say, is on the right-hand side, the civic impact. So governments must strive for a certain impact, services to the community, and that's not that rational. So business to business, for instance, it's really about economical as aspects. So it must be faster, better, cheaper, more profit, things like that. But the civic impact, that's more difficult to grasp. So the value chain of on the left hand side, what the company has to provide to the government in order for the government to be successful, is more difficult to define what it is. So how we can achieve civic impact is a little bit more difficult to define than what is needed to achieve more profit for the repair shop. Yes. Examples would include IBM, for instance, which is basically saying that, that's the upper example, they are saying that they can help governments to manage their water supply, to waste less water. And obviously for many communities, water availability is a problem. And at the lower example would be GE. That's also a significant provider for governments, and they are basically promising that they can really understand the dilemma that governments are in, and they have enough experience to serve great products or great projects, even with all the constraints that a government must look at. Great. Now we are coming to the assignment. Again, there is an assignment that I expect you to write, again, 2 pages, and send to me. So I want you to come up with a mock-up advertisement for an insurance company for the ad that is being placed in 1.5 years. So it's the ad for a future direction, a future strategy. It's not the ad for today's activities. It's really the ad for the future activities. So the ad could be, you can choose yourself. It could be for social media, for TV, for billboard, for magazines, basically for anything. Yes. But again, of course, the direction that you take, the new strategy that is relevant in 1.5 years, must be specific for the place. So maybe it is social media only, maybe it is a combination of social media and billboard, but that's up to you. So come up with a mock-up of this advertisement. In addition to this mock-up, please write a 2-page memo to the Chief Marketing Officer of the insurance company. And this memo should explain why you have chosen this ad, why you have chosen this mock-up, what it tells to the customer. Is it more on the awareness side, or what is the awareness part, what is the information part of this advertisement, and how it leads to more success of the insurance company. So how is it that through this awareness, more, in the case of the insurance, yes, more customers are entering agreement, a contract with the insurance company, or the risk of the customer goes back, so the insurance has to pay less money for the incidences. And of course, there should be a reasoning why the CMO should actually choose your suggestions over all the other suggestions that are being made. Great! I'm looking very much forward to receive your mock-ups and your 2-page memos. And I wish you good luck and a lot of great ideas how you can integrate these marketing ideas into some cases that you have to solve. Thank you very much. Have a good time.